Hi, everyone. I'm just making sure everything's set. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. My name is Olive, just like the food. This is my first demo, so I'm kind of learning. I'm not really a teacher, but I'm happy to welcome you to see my process as an artist. Big thank you to Opus and to Bonney especially for helping to facilitate this event. Um, a little bit about me, background. I currently live in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, which is just outside of Vancouver. I grew up in Richmond Hill, Ontario, which is just outside of Toronto. And I've been living in BC for 17 years. I'm married to Tim, who is a business coach, and we have two daughters, one in middle school and one going into high school. So my art practice is kind of woven in and around being a mother as well. Something you need to know about me is that, in case you didn't know already, I love skies. I am very fascinated by clouds and sunsets and sunrises, and looking at the sky always just helps me calm down and helps me to breathe. And I think that part of my art, painting skies, is a way for me to hopefully offer that kind of some time of rest to other people. So that's what I hope that my art does for people. I have been painting professionally for 5 years. I decided to give art kind of a more central focus in my life in 2020, right before things all shut down. So it's been a very, a very good ride for the last 5 years. Learning a lot, trying a lot, and yeah, I'm really grateful that I get to do what I love. I work in acrylic paints, and I work in the studio. So this is my studio space. It's actually a corner of our living room, like my kitchen's right there. I don't really have a studio, but this works for now, and I'm grateful for this space that I do have. Um, I know that right now Opus is kind of doing a plein air kind of season, but I am not really a plein air painter. I admire it, and I think that plein air is an awesome way of observing and learning and honing your skills. But unfortunately, my body just doesn't like being outside. So I work mostly off of photographs, and I look out my window a lot. Um, what else can I tell you? I work in a whole range of sizes. So from small, so I have like a 1 inch painting here, to large. So behind me is like a 5 foot wide painting. So I like the whole range. And I also work, aside from doing my own work and releasing collections, I do a lot of commissions. So I have a commission here that I'm just finishing. This is a painting that I did for a couple who is getting married. So I find it really rewarding to work with people to create art that is custom to them and has meaning for them. And to me, I think that relationship is everything. Like being able to work with someone and build relationships with my collectors as well as fellow creatives. So what else? Oh yes, I have an upcoming exhibition that's opening in Port Coquitlam. It'll feature all my clouds. The pieces that I'm working on the demo today, those will be finished up, and I will also be exhibiting those. Bonney will be sending out the details for that, and everything will be also available on my website, which is olivechanart.com. And around October each year, I create an art calendar. So I'm working towards that. This is this year's calendar. And what I also do is every month, on the first of each month, I send out an email newsletter that has the story behind that month's painting. Because I think that stories are also a huge part of what art is. So I like to share the stories, and I'll include like some reflection questions and just help people engage in the art a little bit deeper. So if you're interested in that, you can subscribe on my website. And yeah, I welcome you to subscribe. And I will also be sending out the recording to today's event, a link to the recording to today's event to my subscribers. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up for that too. So I know that you're here to watch me paint and not watch me talk. So I'm gonna move on to the demo part. So today we will be doing this fluffy cloud. And we'll take it in 3 sections. So there's an underpainting, and then the sky, and then the cloud. So that's kind of the framework of today's demo. We'll also be looking at the differences between 3 types of golden paints. So I have golden fluid paint, golden heavy body paint, and golden open paint. So Golden is, if you're unfamiliar with them, they're an American company based in New York, and their quality is very high. The caliber of their products is very high quality, and they also really care about their staff as well as their customers. And so I find that even though they are kind of like a more premium product of premium acrylic paint, so they do cost a little more, but their pigment load, like the quality of the paint and the consistency of it, are really nice, and I feel like I don't actually need to use as much paint as with some other brands. So they have many lines of paint, but today we will look at these 3 and how I use them in my practice. So the tools for today, I'm just going to do a quick run through. This is an acrylic palette. It's basically an acrylic sheet. And I've left some paint on here to show you. This is from my last painting session. So what I like to do, what I like about it is that I can just rub off the dry paint, and then like if it's a bit thicker, you can actually peel it off. But basically, like every time I sit down to paint, I can have a fresh palette, and I don't feel like I'm wasting, I don't know, being wasteful. Like I can just reuse this palette each time that I go to paint. So so I have this acrylic palette. I'm just gonna dump out this garbage can. We have these palette knife. This is an Opus palette knife. I have these brushes, and Bonney will send out, I think, in the chat, a list of all the materials that I'm using today. I also have this rag that actually was a washcloth from when my kids were babies, and a water container for my brushes. So this is a little bit of a unique contraption. It's a vase, an old vase that I rescued, and this is a pool noodle with some slits in it. So what I can do is, oh, I'm nervous. What I can do is put the brushes like this. I don't know if you can see it. So the brush tip is in the water, but it's not resting against the bottom so that it doesn't damage the shape of the brushes. So that's just a homemade kind of hack that I have. I have a water bottle, spray bottle, just to keep things a little moist. And this little tool is called the gripper. I will show you how I use it in a bit. It's for helping to open paint tubes. And then I have my paints, and I have these canvas boards. They're Buzz canvas panels from Opus. These are the 8" by 8" size. So we will be doing the paintings on these. Okay, now we'll get to actually painting. So for the first layer of this painting, I'm going to do what's called an underpainting. So I've done one already to show you what it will look like, because I'm not sure how much time I have today to actually do the whole thing. But basically it's a monochromatic, like one color with white base layer. And I do it really quickly. I do it with my biggest brush. And what it does is it helps me figure out the composition and the values. And I think it's a nice low pressure way to get started because you're not like, white canvas. You can just go crazy because you know that you're going to paint over it anyways. So for the underpainting, the color that I use, it kind of varies on which painting or what I'm doing. Today we're doing a blue sky with a cloud, and I personally have just found that using a pink or a red base behind the blue looks really nice. It's really just a personal preference thing. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to mix some fluid acrylic titanium white with a heavy body alizarin crimson hue. And what you can do, like you can get a crimson color in fluid, but I guess I'm a little cheap, so I don't. I just use the fluid white and I mix it with a heavy body so that I don't have to have a bajillion tubes and bottles of paint. Okay, let me just gather my thoughts here. So anyways, you can see that already that the fluid and the heavy body are quite different. The fluid paint is fluid, it's very runny. And then the heavy body is much thicker. So you can see like it sticks to the palette knife, whereas the fluid is very runny and drippy. So what I like about using fluid for an underpainting is that it goes on really fast and it spreads really quickly and it dries quickly. So that's really nice for underpainting that you want to just like get it done and have it dry to the next thing. So I'm just mixing these two so they're a little bit, yeah, so it's mixed up so that I can apply it easily. This is probably not enough paint, but we'll see. We'll see as we go. So just wipe this. So when I'm doing a large painting, I will usually add a bit of retarder to the fluid paint, and that just allows the paint to dry even a little bit slower, because on a big section of canvas, I don't want it to dry too quickly because I want to be able to blend it. But on a small piece like this, I don't really need the retarder. I can just go, and you can see how quickly it covers the area. So I'm just doing kind of the sky. And for skies, if you observe outside on any day, you'll notice that the sky tends to go from a darker at the top to a lighter at the bottom. So if you're wanting to paint a realistic looking sky with some like atmosphere, that's one trick that you can do is make it slightly darker at the top or more saturated, and then fade it a little bit with white at the bottom. Another note I wanted to say about the brushes, you'll notice that there's long handle and short handle brushes. I bought this many years ago, the long handled one, before I discovered short handled ones. I actually enjoy the short handled brushes more, just because I don't have very good eyesight and I tend to work kind of close to my paintings, and I have whacked myself in the face with the handles before. So I've discovered the short handles, and I like them a lot, but I use what I have. So we have the I'll just mix some of this. Actually, put too much paint on my palette, but we can use it later. Okay. So I am working off of a reference photo. I should show you that. Now that my hands are covered in paint. So I have a reference photo here on my tablet. I don't know if you can see it okay. And what I like to do for this part is I will go into the editing and I will take the saturation down to 0 or minus 100 here, so that my image is black and white, and then I can see the tones or the values, I mean, more clearly as I'm doing the underpainting, so I can see the values of it. So
now, is there a reason that you use alizarin crimson? Like, do you find that there's qualities of that pigment, or is it just a color that you find is a really good color for the underpainting of the very bright blue skies that you do?
it's just, it just happens to be a crimson that I have. And I like how it looks. There's no real yeah, it's not like a very scientific thing. I just it's what I have on hand. It's a pretty color. I think kind of with the underpainting, really you can experiment and find what colors you like. The way that I paint, by the end of it, you don't really see it that much anyways. But yeah, I mean, not a, I don't know, not a fantastic answer, but that's,
Oh no,
I
I
guess, just
mean,
how, yeah.
for me personally, I do also think sometimes what's more important is to use the colors you have and to get to know them really well.
Yeah.
So if it's a color that you have on, it's also sort of, I think, important for people to know that they don't need to put that much thought into what
Mhm.
is the perfect color to use. It could just be something as simple as it's a color that you like the look of, and you'll learn to work with it the more time you spend with it.
Yeah. So usually, I mean, I have alizarin crimson on hand for mixing purples, or adding, yeah, usually I'll use it for mixing purples with ultramarine blue. But I think it's pretty. I've also done underpaintings with something like a naphthol red, which is a much more vibrant, I guess it gives a much more vibrant pink. So you know, just you don't have to overthink it. I like what you said about that, Bonnie. So that's pretty much like the underpainting. It's a really rough little thing, but it kind of gives me a sense of, you know, is this what I want? Is this how I want it to look on the canvas, like the composition of it? On a more complex painting, it kind of gives you a sense of like what needs to be darker or lighter or that kind of thing. But yeah, that's pretty much the underpainting. Let me just look at my notes and make sure I covered everything that I had wanted to say. Okay, I'm just over here, it's off the camera, but I'm just cleaning my brush in the water because I will need it again for the next layer, which is the blue sky.
So, yeah, do you do a combination of sort of rinsing the brush off in the water, and then do you use a paper towel to dry it off, or do you work with a wet
Oh,
brush?
right. So
Yeah.
that's why I have the rag. So here, let me show you. I'll move it over so I can show you. So I rinse my brush off in the water, and then I will dry it out on my rag.
I just want to mention we have quite a few people who are saying that they're really loving this presentation already. So
Oh, I'm glad.
passing that along to you, Olive.
Thank you. All right, so while that one's drying, I'm just going to use the one that I already painted to move us along. Um, and now we're going to paint the sky. So for the sky, I'm going to use the heavy body cobalt blue hue and ultramarine and mix them. The reason I do this for blue, so if you picture, I don't have a color wheel, but if you picture a color wheel, blue next to yellow is, I'll just put a yellow here. Blue next to yellow is green. And then blue next to red, or my crimson, is purple. And so cobalt tends towards the green and ultramarine tends towards the purple. Um, and so I like to mix the two of them to kind of get a more like middle ground blue, if that makes sense. I'm just gonna bring my saturation back up so that I have my proper reference photo. So yes, so I'm gonna use the heavy body for the blues, and I'll just show you how I arrange my paints. This is pretty much all the paints that I have. It's all on this board. So you'll see that it's mostly golden and mostly the heavy body. And then down here I have some opens. I just have taken them out because I am using them. But this is how I set that up. Let me just rearrange this. You can see. And then what I'm going to mix them with is a little bit of the open white. So golden open paints are designed to be extra slow drying. You can get them in tubes like this, but I use so much white that I buy a tub. And I consider this my secret sauce. Like I use this a lot. So I usually will just have a glob of titanium white open on my palette for the duration of my painting session. I love that it's really slow drying. So it means that I don't have to worry about the paint getting crusty as I go along. Like I can take as long as I want to use it. And it is so slow drying that like a glob like this, I don't know if you could see it's not that thick, but this would probably stay wet and workable for, I'm guessing, like 2 weeks. It's really, really slow drying. So it's helpful to have if I know that I'm going to be painting today and tomorrow, then I can just leave it on my palette. I can spritz it with some water, cover it with plastic wrap, and then the next day I'll take the plastic wrap off, spritz it with some water, and then off we go again. So it's great because then I don't have to remix colors. Like if I mix a color with the open white, then that will last longer too. So that's why I call it my secret sauce. Like I love this product a lot. So anyways, we're gonna mix some blue. We don't need that much. Yes, I was gonna show you this tool. It's called the gripper. It's made by Golden. It's got different sizes of notches, and what you do is you put it onto the lid, the cap of your tube of paint, and then it just helps. It gives you that little bit extra leverage to open it, and it's great because sometimes the caps get really stuck. and I will probably need to use it for this one. I forgot to mention that I'm also going to add a tiny bit of burnt umber to the sky. So in nature, there's like the colors in nature are usually slightly more neutral. Another trick that I have or tip that I have is to wipe the kind of mouth of the tube of paint before you put the cap on. That keeps it from getting stuck. So anyways, yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say we have another question from the chat about so you're usually using the regular heavy body golden paints and then you're mixing them with the titanium white
Yes.
open, but I noticed that you also have you're using the Payne's Gray Burnt Umber. Do you find have you used it like comparison to just the regular heavy body, and do you find that it is slightly more transparent, or are there any different qualities to it?
Yes, I would say that the open is for the darker colors of the open, it's slightly more transparent. Yeah,
Okay.
that is definitely my experience as well.
Which I
So
guess on the one hand, it would be good if you were doing glazes of darker colors, but if you wanted something very opaque, it might be better
use the
to
heavy
potentially
body.
mix them with a heavy body or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or sometimes if it's like a
Yeah.
dark area. So for example, on this painting that I have done, like the darker areas, I've had to go over multiple times just because it is a little bit less opaque. But that's a very good observation. I have noticed that as well. So I have left a bit of the open burnt umber here because I will be using it again for my gray cloud later. So I'm just gonna mix these two blues. I like this palette knife because it doesn't have that bend in it. Your traditional palette knives have the bend in it, and I just always found that I couldn't get all the paint off the knife. I don't paint with a palette knife; I use it for mixing. So with this flat one, I can just like actually wipe off most of the paint. So if you can't tell, couldn't tell, I'm a pretty frugal painter. So that's my blue. And then I'm just going to mix a little bit of the open white in so that it's not so dark. And then I'm going to add just a touch of the burnt umber. So burnt umber, brown and blue, when you combine them, they mix kind of, they neutralize each other. So it's like a gray. So the reason I put some burnt umber into the blue is so that it is a little less like kind of artificial looking, I guess. It's a little more natural looking to be less like straight out of the tube blue.
So we also have someone in the chat is mentioning that when they were looking at clouds, they tend to see that they are a bit more um especially on the underside of the clouds, there was quite a lot of green. So do
Mm.
you find, and this was specifically when they were looking at clouds over the ocean, so do you find that based on where your reference photos are taken or where you're looking at where the cloud is, do you find that it sort of changes the color palette? Not
Oh,
even
yes.
talking about like time of day, just like where it is.
Yeah, for sure. I think because, oops, sorry, because clouds are quote unquote white, like they're a highly reflective surface. So they will definitely take on a lot of colors. I wasn't Well, I don't think I have time today to kind of show you um, like kind of all the colors that you could put into a cloud, but you could definitely like this big cloud behind me. I don't know if you want to switch to that view to show them, but the big cloud behind me, I have purples in there, I have greens in there, I have pinks and oranges. So yeah, clouds just kind of carry a lot of colors. So if you're painting outside, don't feel like, oh, I'm not mixing a gray for this cloud. And it's like, it looks green. If it looks green, you should paint green. Like it, because clouds do take on the colors of whatever's around. And I think that's the fun part about clouds too, is that they're not straight gray. It's like you can actually put in all these colors and it brings it to life, really.
Someone in the chat says that they test your observation skills.
Yes. Yes. What are you actually looking at versus what do you think you're looking at? I'm just going to add a little bit of white to the bottom of this to lighten it a little. So that's pretty much the blue, a little bit thin on the top. So there we go. So since I'm done with this, let me bring this over. Since I'm done with this brush for now, I don't really need it. So I'm just gonna stick it in my little pool noodle here. And that'll just rest until I'm ready to clean it. So Bonnie and I were talking about how this is a little bit like those cooking shows. I have one that I've done before already. We're gonna let this one dry. So we'll move on to the actual cloud. And we are making good time. That's good.
I also just want to note that there is someone in the chat who's mentioning um, that their typical approach, if I'm reading the question correctly, is to paint the cloud and then the sky around it.
Mhm.
I think some of that is also going to depend on the medium you're working with. So if you're working with oil, you want to start with your darker colors and then put your lighter colors in over top. With acrylic, there's a lot more like flexibility around that. So you can work as Olive is working, where you start with dark and then you add lights, and then you can kind of go back and work between the two.
Mm.
So I would say it's also just depends on your own personal approach. I don't think there is a right or a wrong way, but Olive, if you have more of an opinion, please let me know.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that really with acrylics, there is no like right or wrong order. Um, I just tend to work from far to near. That's my personal way of doing it. And that is the same if I was doing like a mountain scene or anything. So I usually just work from far to near. Um, and in this case, it ends up being the blue first and then the cloud in front. Okay. So for the cloud, I am going to mix a gray using Payne's gray and burnt umber. Um, I took my first painting class in grade 10, and it was an acrylic painting class. I went to a an arts high school. I was in a visual arts program, which I feel eternally grateful for because that's pretty much where I learned all the basics of painting. Um, and my art teacher was like, don't use black out of a tube if you can. She said it's much richer to mix a blue and a brown together to make a black. So she taught us to do ultramarine blue and burnt umber. And over the years, I've just kind of migrated over to Payne's gray and burnt umber. Payne's gray is basically the pigment of ultramarine blue and some black, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so it's very similar things. So, anyways, I'm using the open because it has it allows me to blend better because it stays wet for longer. Um, and yeah, basically, I'll use the golden open paints if I know that I'm going to be painting for a long time, or if I want to do something that requires soft blending. Because for other acrylics, with the heavy body, they dry faster, and so if you want to get like more of the defined edges and less of the soft blend, um, the the heavy body works better. But for my purposes today, because I want to have a little bit of soft cloud action, I'm going to use the open. So we mix it'll just look black to you until I add the white. But I've always thought it was kind of magical that you can mix gray with blue and brown. I know there's other combinations for mixing gray, um, but this is the one that I've gotten used to. So this is the one I use. So here you can see it is a very nice gray. And the thing I like about mixing brown and blue for gray is that I can kind of tilt it towards uh, one shade or the other. Like if I want a warmer gray, I can just add more of the brown into it. If I want a cooler gray, I can just add more of the blue to it. And I just feel like it's really versatile. So I'm not sure that this is enough paint, but we'll see. So I have wet and dried my brush here because usually when I wash my brushes, I will use it's not listed in the products, but the Masters soap. Do you know which one, Bonnie?
Yes, yes. Sorry, I'm nodding, but yes, I personally also use that soap because I sometimes don't clean my brushes well enough, and it
Okay.
brings them back from the brink, is my thing.
Yeah. So I use that soap and then I'll just coat it and let it dry to let the bristles kind of retain their shape. I am I feel like I'm kind of rough on my brushes, especially when it comes to the dry brushing part. So, yeah, so I have to like make sure I reshape them after. Anyway, so then before I use them, I gotta just rinse out that stuff. So for this cloud, I'm just gonna start with the midtones. It's a bit dark.
So we also have a question about would you ever use like water or other sort of like thinning or diluting mediums um when you are working, or do you mainly just try and mix things with the white and try and apply them thinner or thicker applications, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Um, I have tried using mediums. I haven't quite figured out how to make them work for myself. So I don't really use mediums. The most I'll use is retarder to help slow down the drying time. I don't work with glazes much, so I know that there are like thinners available, but I personally don't use them too much. So I've switched here to a 1/2 inch brush to kind of put down the basic cloud shape.
And I could see you're sort of tinting as you go. So you're picking up some of the white and just sort of using it as you shape the cloud.
Yes.
Hmm.
So yeah, because I think I don't really like rinsing out my brush a ton. So I just kind of use what's on my brush and then, uh, yeah, like you said, tint as I go. And then because this is open paint, you can see how it blends quite nicely, like the softness of it. I feel like maybe if I had a different body with less sensitivities, I would love oil painting because I think oils just have such a gorgeous blending effect, but they give me headaches, so I unfortunately cannot use them. So I'm, I guess, trying to do my best with acrylics to get that kind of same effect.
Say from my like experiments with it, it seems like Golden Open is very similar in terms of the texture of it, both the way that it applies onto the canvas and the drying, the very like slow drying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, and for the grays, you're using with the Payne's gray and the umber, both of those are Golden Open, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the acrylic, the not acrylic, the titanium white you're using is also slow
Is
drying.
also is also the
Yeah,
open
the
right now.
open. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to use before open came out, I just used the heavy body. So I do have a tube of titanium white that's heavy body, but I haven't touched it in a long time because I just enjoy using the open so much more.
Well, I know that we had a another artist who uses the Golden Open who mentioned that a good way to sort of experiment with seeing if the open works is to get the titanium white because it is such a good mixer, and
Yeah.
even mixing that with the open titanium white with other colors, as you've said, significantly slows down the drying time. So it gives that same
Yes.
workability.
It's like it has, it's almost like your paint and retarder mixed together, like it all in one. So then, yeah, if you just want to try open and only want to buy one color, I would say go with the white. Don't do what I did, which when I first discovered open, I didn't know what it was. And I was looking for a cadmium yellow. And then I just saw that, oh, there's a tube of cadmium yellow. So I bought it and brought it home. And then I was like, what is this? It like never dries. I
I've also done that. I have done that a couple times with fluid acrylics where
mhm.
I bought something and didn't realize it was a fluid acrylic and then gone, oops, that's a mistake.
Yeah, the open paints are a little bit more translucent. So if I hold this up, you can't see so, from so far away, but maybe you can see it when it's closer. You can still see a bit of the pink underneath. So that's because the open paint is a little bit more transparent. I was thinking about the question earlier about doing the sky first versus the cloud. And I think for me, um, part of the reason I do the sky first is for this next step. So this is my favorite part of painting clouds. I've switched over to a Princeton Select round blender, and I already put paint on it, but it's basically a very fuzzy tip brush. And it allows you to dry brush, um, and it kind of makes the fuzzy effect. So I will just paint and show you. But I've loaded it with some white. It's too much. But you can so I just very delicately do the fuzzy bits. So I will go back and kind of go over the cloud again because it's a little bit too pink for me right now, but I gotta let the paint dry before I can do another coat. So I'm just gonna show you um, the fuzzy effect. I don't have a technical name for it. I'm not sure if you can see that. You can see as I kind of dry brush it out, it is just this like kind of fluffiness.
Are the bristles of the blender brush very soft, or are they a slightly stiffer brush?
They are pretty soft. Yeah, uh, they're pretty soft. So I guess when I'm choosing what paints to use, I will basically factor in two things: is what colors do I need, and how how slow of a dry time do I want? And then that kind of just determines which paints that I combine.
So we have another, well, first of all, we have some people who find that this is a very interesting step to watch. So thank you very much for including it because it does add a lot of depth and it gets that sort of wispiness that you get from clouds. We also have some questions about if you were, let's say, painting a sunset, would you still work with a blue background and then layer the sunset colors over top, or would you start with a different base color?
I would, yeah, I would, it would depend on the sunset. I wouldn't do the blue usually. Uh, so like for this sunset, I can't remember what color I had. Oh, I look at the back, I can see I had a pink underpainting. Um, and then I did a purple blended into a pink, blended into a light yellow kind of. And then I add the other, like kind of the details on top. Um, so yeah, it depends on uh, the color of the sky. Like this one happens to be a blue sky. But So the thing with the open is that it just takes so long to dry. Sometimes it works to your advantage, and sometimes it's like kind of frustrating because it's so slow. So I'm gonna do one more swap out so that I can work the cloud, the inside of the cloud to show you.
Oh, it looks like
Oh,
your camera switched to,
okay.
yeah.
Give me a second.
Ah, there we go. Yeah. Nothing like a camera just deciding it wants to do portrait mode to
Right?
throw off your rhythm.
I think I missed a phone call or something. I heard something, but no one ever calls me except for spam callers. So,
Yeah.
of course, they have to
Yeah.
call me today
I
at
was
this
gonna
time.
say always how it goes. So in terms of your process for these, do you find that you do most of like for a smaller painting like this, would you work at it, um, try and like get it to a completion or a close to completed stage in one session? Or do you sort of give yourself more time, so sort of working on a couple paintings at once and just sort of uh, working on things more slowly? Because with the open, I guess that leaves you more time to sort of put a painting down and come back to it.
Right. I think with this size, I kind of just do it all in one go. Um, but having said that, it's like I'll do it all in one go and then I'll come back to it the next day and be like, this needs like fiddling with, or so it's never just one session because after the first session, I will always inevitably find something I want to change. So with this brush, I think one of the nice things too is that I can use the edge of it and cover more area if I need to, like quicker, and then um, go in with the tip for the more detailed areas. This is what I mean that by I'm a little bit rough with my brushes. I like scrub the canvas pretty much. But thankfully these brushes are not too expensive. So I might as well tell you about the exhibition I'm doing. Um, I've been invited to display my work at a Port Coquitlam shop. It's called Bevies, and they sell non-alcoholic drinks. So like ciders and wines and stuff like that that are all not alcoholic. And they have a beautiful wall, and they've asked me to fill their wall. So I will have 7 pieces, including these ones and the one behind me. Um, they will all be on display from August 6th to November 4th. So if you're in the Vancouver area and want to see my art in person, you are welcome to go during any of their business hours. It'll just be up on the wall. And the details will be in the follow-up email. Another thing that I'll do is, I'm realizing it as I'm doing it, is so on my brush, because I don't really wash it out all that often, on my brush, let me see if I could show you. I have the gray paint on the top, and then I have white here towards the bottom. So as I'm painting, I'm like doing the gray, and then I'm kind of just leaning the brush back and just adding just that tiny little bit of white. I don't know if you're able to see that, but I just think that's a fun way to add just a little bit of the reflective light in at the bottom without it being too much.
So we do have another message in chat, and apologies if you've already covered this, but at what point do you feel like, do you ever come to a point where you're like, yes, this painting is done, or do you just sort of feel like you don't want to work on a painting anymore for fear of overworking it? Like, or so which is it like, do you really have a feeling of, okay, yep, this is a completed painting, or is it more, if I work on this anymore, I'd risk ruining it?
I think that's like the the most common artist struggle, right? Like,
Yeah.
is it done? Uh, I think for me, the question I ask myself is there anything else I want to change? And like I'll look through the whole thing, and if I feel like every single area of the painting, I'm like, I like how it is. I wouldn't change that. Um, then it's kind of like it's done. Uh, yeah, but usually, like if I'm working on a piece, I will say it's done. Like, okay, I'm done working on it for today. I can't think of anything else I want to change. I can't see anything else I want to change. Um, and then I will let it sit for like a day or two or three or a week and come back to it. And then if I come back to it and think, no, there's nothing else I would want to tweak. Um, and I don't know if for some people that never happens. Like I think there are some people who are just like, I can always find something that I want to change. Um, but I think for me, I do get to a point where it's like, no, this is done. Like there's nothing else I want to change. Were the other questions?
I think we're okay for now.
Okay.
We have a couple people who were asking what else the blender tool was good for. But I mean, it's a really excellent blender, and I've also found it's great for adding texture.
Hmm.
I'll just scroll and see if there's anything. Oh, yes, we actually have a question. So you're working off a reference photo, but as you work off it, are you considering the source of sunlight and how that would affect the lights and darks of the cloud?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Um, I think one of the keys to doing clouds is imagining where the sun is and kind of picturing how the where the kind of the strongest source of light is. So in this case, the sun is somewhere up here. Uh, so you'll have a little bit of reflected light. So this is a little probably a bit too light here. Um, and then you have like the light is hitting this piece, and then the light is mostly hitting the top here. So yes, light is key to kind of modeling a cloud, like making it look 3D.
And for the sources of the photos, are you only ever using photos that you yourself have taken, or are you also trying to like are you using um stock photos, images you found online?
Hmm. That's a really good question. I use either photos that I have taken. So this particular one I took off of my back porch, um, or I'll use photos that I have asked for permission to use. So because I sell my work, I don't use stock photos because I don't think that's allowed, or at least I don't believe it's allowed to like sell work that you've. I just don't feel like it's fair to sell work of a photo that I someone that I haven't had permission to use, even though I paid them for the image. I don't know. Anyways, that's just how I do it. So I have worked off of photos that I found off of Instagram, for example. I will contact the photographer and I will ask them, hey, introduce myself. I'm a painter. Can I reference your photo for a painting? And in general, most people are quite happy to let me reference their photos and quite excited that they're gonna get to see a painting that's based on a photo they took. So that's just my personal approach to it is I either ask for permission to use the photo or I use photos that I've taken myself. Or I also have a lot of friends who know that I love skies and sunsets. So they will send me photos and they've already given me permission to use them. So yeah.
I'm also curious about this because I found skies are one of the things that I personally find the hardest to photograph, especially with a like a phone camera, which is usually the one that I have. I find that, they lack a lot of the vibrancy that they have when you see them in person. So
Yeah.
I'm always on the lookout for where are some sources I can get good, uh, high quality, um, uh, what is it, skyscape photos.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I almost forgot about this part. So earlier we were talking about different colors in the clouds, and I was saying that for the purposes of this
Mhm.
demo, I might not have time to do too much color in it. But something I discovered recently is if you want to make uh, if you want to make like it the highlights really pop, it's really fun to add the opposite color from the color wheel to the like whatever color is opposite to what it's right next to add that color into the highlights, and that actually helps to bring it forward visually. So because my background is blue, I'm gonna add just a teensy bit of orange to the white, and then I'll show you the difference. It's pretty cool. So this is a tube of Amsterdam vermilion. I was gifted it as a sample from Opus, and it's actually the only orange paint I own right now. So that's what I'm going to use. Speaking of using what we have. So I only need a teeny, teeny little bit. So basically, it's like barely tinted. Yes, you can see it on the screen. Just a little bit of orange. So I'm going to add it to the highlights. And this is where a painting kind of deviates from a photo, because your photo is not going to show you orange highlights on your cloud, but I need a little bit more.
I have another question about the open paints.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things you can do with oil paints is you can put them in the freezer to prevent them from setting up or drying. Um, could you still do that with the golden open? Could you put the acrylics in the freezer?
That is a great question. It has never occurred to me, and I haven't tried it. Um, but I know that golden is really great in terms of like answering customer questions. So that is, I think, definitely something that you could reach out to Golden to and ask them. Um, or you might be able to find the answer online. So I personally don't know because I've never even considered it. because I don't know anything about oil painting. So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer.
I can say personally, what I've sometimes done is I've covered my palette. I've just put like a plastic bag around it and I've put it in the fridge.
Oh,
The
okay.
freezer might be too drying for acrylic paint because the humidity would also affect how quickly it could dry. That's just a guess. Again, I do think Golden is great about responding to customer questions. I've often come to them with more general questions, and they're super excellent about answering. So reach out to them. At the very least, I know that this is one of the things we all really enjoy here at Opus. We love answering customer questions like this. We love sort of going into, well, what would this do? So at the very least, they'll enjoy answering it. We also have another question about someone's been painting along and they're finding that their painting is um, their cloud feels very stationary. Do you have any tips for suggesting movement with your clouds?
Hmm. I find that with clouds, if you look at a cloud, there's like an irregularity to kind of the bumps and the dips. Um, Sometimes what I'll do is just like almost like jerk my hand back and forth to uh to kind of mimic some of that irregularity. And I think that yeah, I think that helps to make it more natural looking and have more movement in it. You can look at the direction of your strokes or your lines. It, that might help as well. I am about to add in kind of a final level of detail that could also help. So I have this really small brush. It's a 00 Opus Denman. You can see it, a very small brush. So this, I'm gonna use it to kind of add some curly wisps, if that makes sense. And I think that that can add some life and movement to it too.
So we have another question about approximately, no need to give like a actual numbered answer. How many cloud paintings have you done?
Oh, oh, it depends on how large do you consider a cloud painting? Because I have uh wrong way. I have like a whole collection of these tiny ones, and I've probably done at least 100 or 200 of these really small ones. I use these to use up my leftover paint because sometimes I only get to paint like a few times a week, and then there'll be a string of days where I don't get to paint. And I might have a small little dollop of the open white left, and I'm just like, it's too small to put back in the container. So what I do is I take scrap paper and I like paint the backgrounds with leftover paint from a painting, and then I'll use the leftover white and do these little clouds. So I don't actually know how many cloud paintings I've done.
We have a lot of people saying that those are adorable, and I agree, they're very sweet.
Last year I did the Opus Coquitlam, one of the Opus Coquitlam plein air adventures, and I brought a container of these and I gave one to everyone who came, and everyone just, yeah, they're always well received. They're cute.
Also, have you ever encountered brushes that have bristles, especially for smaller brushes, where their bristles will splay out? and sort of fray.
all the time. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it that's like the one thing that I feel like, oh, if I could change anything about brushes is that they wouldn't do that, but all the time. Uh, and I have to replace my brushes every once in a while just because they do. I think it helps to use the brush cleaner soap to kind of maintain the shape, but I I don't know if I don't know if it's the way I paint or if it's just the natural friction between the brush and the canvas that they yeah, I have lots of brushes that are just like where. I think to the person who asked how many cloud paintings I've done, I've documented most of them aside from these tiny, tiny ones. They're on my online gallery on my website. So if you go to olivechanart.com and navigate to the full gallery, you'll be able to see kind of a log of all the paintings I've done, at least in the last 5 years since I started doing this as a job, as a profession, I should say, not a job.
And do you have, might be a personal question, but is there a reason that you picked clouds as your subject? Was it just something that what drew you to them?
Um, I don't know. Why do we like the things we like?
I know I was going to say I do a lot of like landscapes and I'm like I don't know. I don't know why I do that. I just like them. So I feel the like they're just the thing that works for you.
They make me happy, like just looking up at, and there's just so much variety. I think so. In 2020, when I decided, okay, I'm going to give art a go, um, I knew that I needed to kind of focus in on one subject for a little while just to have a cohesive body to show, like, this is what my skills are and this is what I'm able to do. Um, and I looked back at past work and I just thought, oh, skies, like I just really enjoy enjoy looking at them and I enjoy painting them. And so I was like, well, why not? Let's just focus in on skies. And yeah, I think I guess personally too, like, well, art wise, skies are really awesome because there's so much variety. And it's like every moment is different, and there's so many colors and so many shapes and so many forms and so many moods. Like they're just like I feel like it's like infinite inspiration. Um, I also feel like there's some people who feel that way about flowers, for example, and I think for me, I don't quite have the patience to do every petal. I think there's a lot more forgiveness in clouds because it like this and this do not look exactly the same, but this still looks like a cloud, even though like this particular knob is not exactly where it's supposed to be, like so I feel like for there's just yeah, there's more grace in doing clouds because I don't have to have an exact. Um and then yeah, I think it just is I don't know, it just makes me happy.
I do think it is really important to sort of paint what you yourself want to paint. And that is a lesson that I think sometimes for me, especially, I found like it took a while for me to really internalize that. But So that's what keeps you coming back to painting is the thing, if you keep doing things you like.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so after this demo, I'm going to take all these panels and I haven't quite decided if I'm going to have just a string of all similar looking ones or if I might play with some of the background colors and some of the colors. But these, I'm going to frame them and they'll be part of the exhibition in August. So yeah, it'll be, I'll have them up on my website too after August 6th. So if you're out of town and you're not able to come see the show, you could always check back on my website and see what kind of life these have evolved into.
We have another question. Do you frame your paintings yourself or do you um, have them framed at a framer?
Hmm. Depends on what the surface is. So for my canvases, I usually actually go to Opus. They have a great framing department and they have, depends on the size, either ready to go, ready made frames or custom made frames. I've done both. Um, with these panels, I actually just bought some 8x8 frames online. And so what I will do is I'll take out the glass and put this in and then pop the frame on. Um, so yeah, it kind of depends on what the surface is. I don't have the woodworking skills to build my own frames. Same with canvases. I don't have the skills to build my own canvases, so I get most of mine from Opus as well. Yeah, I'm. I feel like I'm pretty much um, finished showing you all what I wanted to show you today. If there's any other questions.
We have just another comment from the chat about that they feel like now they can approach painting clouds, which I mean, for a very long time, I've been very intimidated by clouds, and I have to say, this really demystified them quite a lot.
Oh, good. I'm really glad.
Oh, and we also have a question about the tiny expanses. Um,
Yeah.
it mentions that there are 100 tiny skyscape paintings on watercolor paper. How did you find it was working with acrylic on watercolor paper?
I don't love it. uh, I did it mostly because it was um, portable and accessible. Um, I did gesso the paper before I went in with the paints, and that helped. Um, but it's not my favorite surface to work on. Yeah. So I had done that for my first solo exhibition in I think 2023, and it was a small gallery space, and so I wanted to go with small art. But of course, I had to make it 100. I don't know why.
Yeah, so I guess my other question is, when you work, I guess, on larger sizes, because the panels that we have, at least the buzz ones, are only available at smaller sizes. Do you work on slim canvas or deep canvas?
Both. Yeah. I use both depending, especially for commissioned work. It depends on the needs of my client. So sometimes I'll have clients who don't want anything deep. They're gonna hang it in, say, a high traffic area. So then we'll go with slim. And otherwise, I do prefer the deep. I think um, because I do paint around the edges. I feel like the deep kind of shows that off a little bit more and just has more visual impact. But I like both. Yeah, and I do use both. I guess I will
Oh,
kind
we
of, oh,
have another question. Do you
yeah,
varnish your paintings once you're done with them, or do you leave
yes,
them? Oh,
yes, I do. So I have taken to using, I don't have it with me right now, but it's the Liquitex varnish. It's like a pretty much like a one-step liquid varnish. Um, I I like the look. I don't like the look of shiny, like glossy paintings. I like the look of matte paintings. So I will do one coat of the glossy varnish just to bring out the colors. And then I'll let that dry. And then I will do a layer of the matte varnish to um, make the finish look. I just feel like the matte look is more elegant to me. So I do varnish with those.
um, yeah, just to confirm, are these the Soluvar varnishes, or are they
No,
just
it's
the professional varnishes?
yeah, it's just the professional varnishes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
seeing some of the comments pop up now because I'm actually
Yeah.
looking at the screen. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who has come because I feel like it is so, like our time and attention is so precious. And it just means a lot to me that you've chosen to spend your time with me today. Like that's just amazing. So thank you.